my name is Nicole and welcome to the IBlieve YouTube channel. So in today's video, we will be talking about productivity and management tips from Year 1 and Year 2 students. So let us begin by getting to know our guests. So why don't you introduce yourselves by telling us your name, your year, and where you're from.
So hi everyone, my name is Diya and I'm an IB Year 1 student studying in Mumbai, India. I'm an M23 graduate and my HL subjects are chemistry, biology and psychology. And my SL subjects are English, LNL, Math AA and Spanish B.
Hi everyone, I'm Daphne. I'm doing IB in the Philippines. I'm an IB Year 2 student and I'll be graduating in September 2022. My subjects are HL Business, Psychology, and English Language and Literature, while my SLs are Physics, Chinese B, and Math AA.
Before we begin, why don't we find out what a typical schedule of an IB student looks like? So whether this is online or in person, what is your daily school routine, such as like when you wake up, when you begin classes, when you end classes, and after classes?
So I live in Mumbai, India, and for us, physical school hasn't started yet. So I've been having online school for almost 2 years now. And I shifted to a new school this year, so my routine has changed quite a bit. But it goes something like this. So I wake up at 7 a.m. in the morning. I like to shower and eat breakfast before school because even though we're at home, I like to sort of feel professional, feel like I'm going to school because, if I'm too groggy in the morning, then I just feel really lethargic the entire day. So I like just freshening up. And our school starts at 8:10 in the morning. So we have our homeroom lesson followed by classes. We have a half an hour lunch break. So in that break, I don't really do anything except eat. I'm not one of those people who can multitask. I need to sort of relax when I'm relaxing and be productive when I'm being productive. And then on some days, our school ends at 3 p.m. and on others, it ends at 4 p.m. And when it ends at 4 o'clock, we usually have some CAS work from 3 to 4, which is why it ends at that time. School days are quite long, which is why after school, what I like to do is I like to go to the gym because I don't really feel like studying directly after that. But then also if I relax, I feel guilty about it. So I sort of go to the gym and I meet my CAS activity requirement. I come home, I like to study till about 8:39, then dinner, and then I like to go to bed at around 10:30. I watch a little Netflix after that, sort of relaxing, unwinding. And then, the whole thing starts all over again.
Wow, that's a nice, concise schedule, Diya. For me, I wake up at around 7:30. I'm the type of person who doesn't really eat breakfast in the morning, and I do take night showers. So I wake up at 7:30, do my morning routine, like, freshen up, wash my face, brush my teeth, whatever. And same as Diya, I like to look professional, even though we're in online school. Like, I don't want to wear pajamas. It doesn't feel right, and also I think it just sets the mood when you wear something more professional. My school runs from 8 o'clock till 2:35 p.m. So I have 4 blocks every day, and my schedule runs on day 1 and day 2. So it's a cycle. And in between those 4 blocks, I do have breaks in between. So I have independent study time, I have like a student wellness time. After school, usually some teachers would hold tutorials or clubs. So if ever I need extra help in certain classes, that's what I do from 2:35 till 3:35. Then after 3:35, maybe take a break in between. I like to finish studying all my work before dinner time, so that, after dinner time, I have my own personal time to do, my own hobbies, catch up with social media, watch YouTube, Netflix. Then I like to sleep in between 10:30 till 11:30, although this is a schedule that's like ideal, I guess. So it doesn't happen every day, but this is the schedule that I like to stick with.
Okay, great. So the second question is, as a pre-IB student, what can I do to organize or prepare for IB Year 1? And how should I organize my class notes, my handouts, or the test papers given?
So I would say that everyone's study routine is different. I don't think there's a one size fits all when it comes to studying, but I do think it's important to find a method that works for you and stick to that. Because I feel like I'm someone who gets easily intimidated by other people's routines, by what other people are doing. Like, for instance, some of my friends are nocturnal. They like to study at night and then, they like to sleep during the day, when it's a holiday, that is. And I just can't study when the sun sets for some reason. It's like my brain it just shuts down. And I used to like try and study at night and it didn't work for me. But then I realized that, for me, I'm more of a morning person. I can be productive in the morning. And at night, like Daphne says, I like to prioritize my personal life, other things, my hobbies, and all of that. So find what works for you. Each study has a different way you should approach it, each subject, sorry. For instance, in the more empirical subjects like math, chemistry, biology, all the sciences basically, I like to take handwritten notes because there's a lot of terminology you need to learn. There are a lot of formulae in some subjects, but then certain other things you might prefer typing it or creating some diagrams or annotations. It really depends. So just find ways that work for you because it becomes more fun to study then.
For me, I think organization skills is really key in the IB, especially when it's time to revise and study for tests and exams. So personally for me, class notes, I like to separate them in different notebooks for each subject. And I also like to have a separate notebook for doing practice problems just because I don't like mixing my class notes with my practice exercises. And same as what Diya said, usually for the more humanity subjects, I usually do typewritten notes just because there's less graphs, I guess, and it's more on text and memorizing and concepts really. While for the more, I guess, sciencey subjects like math, for me, I do physics. I like to write handwritten notes just because it's easier to write math formulas handwritten, and I think it's easier to understand as well when it's handwritten instead of typed out. And as for handouts and test papers, I like to store them in like these accordion file folders. I'm not a binder person, so yeah, accordion file folders separated with like each subject is what I like to do.
So, on organizing class notes, are you guys the type to create flashcards, or do you like to create questions, or do you just like study the handouts given to you and just highlight? What's your preference in terms of how you study?
So it really depends on the subject. For instance, psychology is something that's new for me because in my pre-IB days, I didn't really have that subject as an option. I did the IB MYP program, so it was still IB, but just we didn't have psychology as a subject. So in psychology, I found that I like using flashcards because currently we're doing research methodologies and qualitative and quantitative research and bias. So for all of that, there's a definition and then there's its meaning. So for that, flashcards really work. I think it's a very effective way to study. But then things like chemistry or biology, I sort of like to teach myself. So I act like I'm teaching someone else because that way I can make what I'm saying very concise and I sort of register it better. So I write it down like stepwise in my book, like I'm tutoring someone almost, and that seems to work for me.
Yeah, for me, in my case, I'm honestly not really a big flashcard person. Not because it's not effective, but maybe because I'm lazy to write flashcards down. So I guess I'd rather just read and memorize and look at practice problems. Or I also like reading the textbook. I feel like in my school, we don't really open the textbook. Like most of my classmates leave the textbooks like when we were in person. They would just leave them in their lockers and like never open them. But I think I realized in IB Year 2 how much information the textbook has that sometimes the teacher doesn't go through, but then when you have the test, it's right there, like the stuff that he never mentioned, but it's in the textbook. So yeah, I think I'm not a big flashcard person. I'm more of like notes, read my notes type of person and read the textbook and do practice problems.
Okay, thank you. So our next question is, how do you be productive in IB? So do you have like a pre-study ritual or routine? What do you do before you study or like before you get into like the zone of studying?
So what I like to do is first of all find a workspace that's sort of conducive to studying. I don't like studying maybe, for instance, in my own bedroom where I sleep because I associate that place with relaxation. So for me, studying there is just sort of counterproductive. So I've set up my whole desk area in my parents' room actually, which is really odd because in the dining room and living room, there are just so many people. And my younger sister will be in our study room and she alternates between our bedroom and our study room. And there's that, our guest room has terrible internet connection. So my parents' room was the only place left for me. So I like to study there and it's just neat. There's a lot of stationery. So that helps me sort of feel like I'm in the zone. And I would also say when I'm starting with work, what happens is I like to gain momentum. So I like to start with tasks that aren't too intense, that don't require too much thinking, that are just more mechanical, like maybe drafting emails or if I have to write some service reflection, something like that. But if I want to learn a new concept in biology, for instance, I'll keep that for later on when my mind is completely engrossed in studies, and I can like give my all to that.
For me personally, I think to be productive in the IB, you definitely need to have motivation and good time management. Although, of course, it's not gonna happen all the time, but as much as possible, having motivation and time management is important. Another important thing is not burning yourself out. If you need a break, do that break. I'm sure everyone deserves a break, as every now and then. And for pre-study rituals, I don't really have one besides occasionally maybe if I want to get into the zone, getting like an iced Americano or something, like a coffee. Or for me personally, I like studying also in my desk, like Diya. I think I'm most productive in my desk. But sometimes I kind of get bored in my desk. So sometimes I'll like cycle around maybe my living room, like the coffee table area, or my dining room. But yeah, definitely I think I'm most productive on my desk as well.
Okay, great. The next question is, how many hours should we set aside to enjoy our hobbies and to study outside of school hours? How can we manage and balance our school life and personal life?
So I think it's a really big sort of stereotypical notion people have about the IB, that you're in the IB, there's no such thing called social life, forget it. And I've only been, doing the IB diploma program for about 1.5, 2 months now, so I can't really comment. But I know from other people's experience, as well as what I've experienced so far, that I think it's all about time management, honestly. If you don't manage your time, yes, you're not going to have the time for a social life. But if you do, and it's not that difficult, honestly, if you manage your time well enough, there's time for everything. And I think what's great about the IB diploma program is that your hobbies are sort of intertwined with the program. Like take CAS, for example. I mean, yes, it's a necessary requirement, but also it gives you a chance to do other things. Like me going to the gym, I justified it by saying that, yes, it's a CAS requirement, so I'm not wasting my time. So I get to do that. And I love learning languages. I love Spanish. And in my school, there's a Spanish club. So that's sort of part of my creativity aspect. So, and service, obviously, it's so great, helping people who aren't maybe as fortunate as us. So you really get to do all of that. And then also with your social life, I would say keep it separate from academics. A lot of people fool themselves into thinking that they're like sort of hitting two birds with one stone. I'm studying with my friend. And I know that that works for a lot of people, but I also know that a lot of people don't feel fulfilled because they haven't studied 100%, but they also haven't socialized 100%. So when you're socializing, just do that. But when you're studying, just do that. So, work hard, party harder, or something like that. I believe in that. My idea of partying is reading books and watching TV, but same thing.
Yeah, I think setting aside time for hobbies and school is important. Having work-life balance is important. So like as a student, I prioritize my school life, my social life, and also my personal life. So for school, definitely is like number one priority right now as a student, and then my social life and my personal life, right after. Do school during the weekdays maybe, and then on the weekends prioritize more of your social life and your personal like well-being, right? So on the weekends I like to catch up with my friends from my old school or my new friends also. And in the weekdays it's really focused on schoolwork, homework, doing CAS, EE, IAs, and college apps also as a senior. And I agree with Diya with the part where like studying with friends. For me personally, it doesn't work because I just feel pressured to talk to my friend since she's there, I guess. So I agree, keeping your school life and social life, there's a boundary, right? So keeping it separate is also very important.
Our last question, do you guys have any tips, or like what do you think your main takeaways are for other IB students out there, and what do you suggest, or at least what worked for you that you think you can share to other people?
I think my main point is that the IB is a roller coaster, and I've already started experiencing the highs and the lows. So I would say that when you're unhappy, just let yourself be unhappy. Like I know a lot of people say you get over it, but just, wallow, feel sad for yourself, cry, do what you need to, and just be sad because honestly, it's inevitable. And, like people say things like meditate and all of that, but for me, it doesn't really work. So I think the best way to get over something is feel it so much that you can't feel it anymore and get over it. And when you're happy, just sort of be in the moment, enjoy that like moment of happiness, and remember why you're working hard. You should have some motivation for working, and it shouldn't be something like maybe your parents pressurize you, or your teachers have high expectations. But the thing is, if you work with the motive of pleasing other people, it's not going to give you the outcome you want. Work towards your own goals. For me, it's maybe getting into a good university. And that's just a short-term goal, because now I'm in the 11th grade, so that's soon enough. And then just generally living a happy life, that's my goal. And my parents have never pressurized me, they're sort of always with me, so that's just an additional bonus. So just find something that inspires you and work towards it.
Well said, Dia. I think for me personally, the number one lesson I learned in IB, Dia also said this a while ago, it's definitely work hard and play hard. You can balance the two in IB. People think it's impossible, but it is possible. For me, one of the things that I started doing when I was in the IB was definitely doing homework the day it's given, just so that you can get it over with. And even if it's like those homeworks that are pretty long, like pretend an essay, I should say just start working on it a bit the day it's given. Like, if it's an essay, write an outline. Or if it's a presentation, maybe start working on the slides. Those small steps can definitely help you in the future. And, as an IB Year 2 student, so I know it's gonna get busy with, IAs, EE, college apps. I also agree, just live in the moment and always remind yourself why you're working so hard. You've come so far. And I think just being in the IB itself is an achievement already. So be proud of yourself and give yourself credit for what you've done.
Okay, thank you so much. So I think that's it. Thank you for making it till the end of this video. If you would like to hear more about IBlieve, please check out our Instagram, TikTok, and website, which will all be linked down below. Don't forget to comment, like, and subscribe. Thank you for watching, and see you again in our next one.